Coming up on Hands on Tech, I'm Jason Howell, and I've been playing around with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. It's like a transformer phone that folds out into a tablet and into a phone, and I've got lots of thoughts on this $1,800 device coming at you next on Hands on Tech.
This is TWiT.
I got a device in my hands about a week and a half ago from the folks at AT&T. It is on the AT&T network. I have the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. And, I gotta say, this is a pretty solid feeling device. So I thought I'd share my thoughts. I gotta kind of wipe off the screen a little bit because it's a little fingerprinty. But thought I'd give you my review of the Z Fold 5, and you can kind of, figure out for yourself whether you want to drop $1,800 or more on this device, because it is a pricey piece of hardware here. So you can see here, and like I said, this is on the AT&T network. Just FYI, I did get this as a review unit from AT&T. So I'm going to be sending this back to them here in a few weeks. But while I have had it, I've had a lot of fun with it because it really is, it feels futuristic in the sense that it is a device that folds and everything. They've made some changes to the design. I think the notable change, because there aren't an insane amount of changes between this device and the Z Fold 4, but I think the most notable change that you see if you're using your eyes to see what's going on is that they changed the hinge system. If you looked at any of the previous Z Folds, this would be a teardrop shape. And basically what that means is that over here on the edge, counter to the hinge, it would be touching the way it is. But over here, you'd actually be able to see a little light through. It would kind of like open up slightly. And I don't know if that was always kind of like a challenge with the hinge that they weren't able to figure out, or I think, sometimes they've spun it as, well, that actually allows us to, prevent like dust from, to give some sort of passageway for dust, because if it snaps all the way closed, then like dust and maybe even like a pebble or some tiny little, something can get in there and damage the screen. Apparently they've gotten over that because they've made the change and it is now like this. Other foldables have done that too. So essentially what that means is it lays flat completely when it is closed. I mean, it doesn't actually lay flat if you've got it on that side because you got the camera bumps that prevent it from doing that. But it does mean that the device just feels a little bit more polished, I'd say, as a result. But I mean, the device itself is, a really nice feeling device. It is a little heavy, which is still the case. It kind of always has been. Still thicker than a normal phone. When you're talking about kind of thickness, this is my Pixel 7 Pro. And I mean, there we go. It is definitely thicker. Even with a case on the 7 Pro, it's thicker than what the case is. But they have thinned it out slightly. They've trimmed a mere 2 millimeters off when it's folded the way it is right now. So that is something, I suppose. Still pretty heavy, like I said, kind of like a brick. If you're carrying this around in your pocket, you definitely feel it more than you do some other smartphones, like the thinner smartphones or maybe even just a little bit smaller. It does lack dust resistance. It's resistant to water immersion, but still not resistant to dust. So there's that. But I think altogether, it really is very similar to last year's model, and some minor improvements to the design, like the fact that it can fold entirely flat now. And I mean, they've never had a problem with this folding or unfolding flat as well, like some of the other phones. I think the Pixel Fold has a hard time unfolding entirely flat. This one doesn't have that problem. But I would say that at this stage, where are we? About 5 years into the Z Fold's existence, if I got my math right. And it's a really great recipe. Samsung, continues to show, I think, almost flex the fact that their foldable game is about as polished and excels anybody else in the industry right now, purely for the fact that they've been doing it about as long as anybody in the industry. And they've got the resources to really throw at it and make it a really impressive device and to make all the changes that people are asking for. At the same time, I kind of feel like, okay, we've seen this. Where do you go from here? And, between the Z Fold 4 and the Z Fold 5, it's kind of marginal changes. I almost feel like, 5 years in, Samsung's at the point to where they kind of, they got to kind of capture the imagination again. We're kind of getting used to there. I can speak for myself. I'm kind of getting used to what we're seeing here. How can Samsung reignite the design to give it a little bit extra boost? Or does it continue to just iterate the way it is? I kind of think it's probably going to be the latter versus the former. But on the outside, the already very smudged outside, depending on the angle, you've got this display. The outer display, as you can see, is very narrow. And some of the other devices, like when I was at Google I/O, I got to get my hands on the Pixel Fold, and it has kind of like a wider, almost book-like dimension to it. This one really opts for the tall, slender candy bar phone when it's folded. The Pixel Fold kind of comes out a little bit more, so it kind of feels like when you open it up, things are a little bit wider. It feels more like a book. And what that also gives it is that the front of the device feels more like a regular phone, right? Here you've got this really kind of narrow view. Got to find the fingerprint sensor. Sometimes I have a hard time with the fingerprint sensor on the side. As you can see, it's right there. But it has a really narrow view. So if you're doing things, like typing, the touch points on this can be really hard to hit. But, is that the end of the world? Not really when you've got a foldable, because you can open it up. Boom, your touch points get a lot larger. As you can see, the keyboard kind of splits out so that each finger or each thumb on the opposing sides of the displays have their own zone for the keyboard to type onto. And I think you can actually fold that together if you don't like that. But anyways, you have the ability to kind of make things bigger, and not just bigger, but a lot bigger, right? This interior display, 7.6 inch display, looks great. Yes, you're going to get those fold marks as you see here. I mean, I think every review you ever see of a Z Fold or a Z Flip is going to point out these fold marks. The reality is, when you're using these phones for any extended period of time, my experience has been, you really start to tune out that fold. Like in a review, when you look at this, it looks incredibly imperfect, but in daily use, you just start to not care. Because, again, because of what you get out of it, this larger landscape view, the ability to collapse things down. And here, let's see here. So I've got, the camera app, and all my controls are down here. And if I take some pictures, I've got little previews down here that I can go ahead and throw back up on the screen and get my, other images down on the carousel down there. You get the ability to do those types of things because of the way that this folds. And so if that crease down there, if you're willing to get over the crease, you get a lot of trade-off for that, is kind of my thought there. So not a big deal. Performance-wise, you've got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, 12 gigs of RAM, peak performance. I don't feel like I need to go into that very much. I mean, this is Samsung, really going for it when it comes to performance in their flagships. Samsung always does good with their flagship performance, in my opinion, especially when they're leaning on the latest Snapdragon. So, you get your fast gaming, you get your fast maneuvering through the UI, which I feel like is kind of table stakes at this point. You should definitely have that on your smartphone. You get fast photo performance, lots of taking pictures in challenging environments. I was able to kind of do that on a quick basis without waiting or things kind of lagging and trying to catch up, that sort of stuff. Software wise, as you can see down here, you get this little taskbar, which is a really nice bonus. In previous years, you haven't had that. Maybe you had that on the Z Fold 4, because I know, Samsung and Google have kind of been working alongside each other to really, well, Google's been working on Android to make it more tablet friendly. And then Samsung benefits from that with the Fold series, right? Because this really is like a tablet size display. So you get this taskbar down below. I can launch a Chrome instance. If I go to my multitasking view, I can tap on that, open it in split screen view. Now I've got Google search, or I've got Chrome on one side. I've got my app drawer on the other. Excuse me. Then I could maybe launch, the Play Store and do a search or whatever. I can go through it. Essentially, this allows you to really kind of customize what you have. I could even, let's see here, I could even drag my camera up to this bottom portion and boop, I've now got 3 different kind of environments running, fully resizable. I could drag information from one screen to the other. If I have, if I'm writing an email and on the other side is a browser, I can actually tap and drag content into that email. That's really nice, including images, by the way. So it really is kind of becoming this like very manipulative drag and drop environment, which is really sweet. And then you can also save app pairs. So I could star this and add the app pair to my home screen. And then that allows me, where is it going to go? It goes right there. So if I like that particular app pair, I can save that and boop, it goes right back to it. So depending on your workflow for a very particular thing, you can set that up, have it stored, and then always kind of pull from it, which is just really nice. I think that's really the big story for the Fold, and the why is its ability to, yes, go from a smartphone size device into the tablet layout. But what are the benefits that you get from doing that? You get this like broadened ability to see things larger, to manipulate and work between apps in a way that is maybe more difficult when you're just dealing, with a single screen on a candy bar phone. It's not as enjoyable, let's just say. But it really is on the Z Fold 5. And then camera wise, it's probably better to show some of the images that I linked to, and for a trigger warning, you're going to see a lot of my new puppy Bronson, because I just love him to death, and he's very very photo friendly. But I was really happy with the pictures that I got of this, and not surprised at all at that. Samsung at this point has really dialed in their camera hardware. Especially for this price point, $1,800, you better have, that's with a wide angle taken really close. That's why it's stretched out. But a lot of clarity in sunlight. That one's maybe a little washed out. I don't know if it was the lighting or if I was kind of moving when I snapped the shot. That's some amazing Mediterranean food that we had over the weekend. And, it turned into a great photo. A couple of photos from a concert that we went to at the in Berkeley, and kind of zoomed in too. So this has a 3x optical zoom. So, I was able to get some reasonable shots. I would love to have more reach than a 3x, but nonetheless, this was darkness and, lit up on the stage. And I think if you go to the next one, you'll see this was my morning jacket. And actually, if you go back to that one and kind of zoom in a little bit, if it'll allow you to zoom in, you start to see a little bit more of the detail that it's actually able to get from pretty far away. I mean, the singer on the right side, you can see, we were very far away, and you could still get some really nice clarity and some reach with the camera on this device. So night shots look excellent. When I'm making a weird face, my nose looks weird. That's me. That's not the camera. Don't worry. And I think go again. This was taken this morning, actually, at the sun was not even up. Like, this makes it look like it was really bright out, but it was almost darkness. And so I was trying to work with the night mode, and I thought it did a pretty darn good job. The light that's shining in on the deck is coming from our kitchen window. But that's a little ways away. And then all the light in the sky, that's just the sun that's threatening to come into the sky. I was pretty impressed with that as a night shot. So overall, I think the camera system on here is good, and it should be good. That's about the same time. It's just not in the direct sun. But yeah, so I was pretty happy with the camera performance on the Z Fold 5. I do wish that I had the Pixel Fold to do a direct comparison with. In a perfect world, that's what this would have been. Here's the Pixel Fold. Here's the Z Fold 5. How do they compare directly? Because I'm super curious. And I do know that I'm going to be getting a Pixel Fold 4 review sometime soon, Google tells me. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. But again, just kind of going back to the Z Fold 5, it feels like Samsung continues to refine the formula, and I don't think that they're wrong to do so. I think that it's really working for them, and this is, a pretty impressive device as a result of it. However, it's $1,800. It's a very costly device, so it definitely falls into that category of like, you got to ask yourself, like, is an $1,800 device worth it for what I get here? And I mean, there are a lot of people who are very happy with the Z Fold 5. I'm not sure if I was spending my money on a new phone, I'm not sure that I would spend $1,800 on a Z Fold 5, not because it's not a good phone, but just because like, that's just a lot of money for me to drop on a smartphone. But I know people out there do value it. And I do appreciate and like what Samsung is doing here. I just kind of think they need to, on the next version of this device, they need to kind of show what's new. And I get why they're iterating. They really want to be seen as the de facto standard when it comes to foldables. I think that's working for them, and I think they're there. Now, what else can you do? What is the next secret sauce that you can inject into this to keep the excitement going? So $1,800, that's it. If you want to get one of these, just $1,800. So there you go. That's my review of the Samsung Z Fold 5. Big thanks to AT&T for sending me this smartphone for review.
Listeners of this program get an ad-free version if they're members of Club TWiT. $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, plus membership in the Club TWiT Discord, a great clubhouse for TWiT listeners. And finally, the TWiT Plus feed with shows like Stacy's Book Club, the Untitled Linux Show, the Giz Fizz, and more. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thanks for your support.